Well, guys, it is now time for the recap of the 2023 MTWS season, as the first video of 2024. Now that the regular season's over, we are getting ready for the 2023 MTWS Runners-Up Cup on January 27th, and then the 2023 MTWS Championship on February 3rd. But that's still a month from now. Right now, we're going to talk about the recap of this wild season it was. So anyways, Shatter, number 1 in the point stands, and is the 2023 MTWS Points Champion. First time ever they got the points championship, as what an unbelievable year it had. Had the best racing record, was dominant in freestyle too after several years of being just a racing truck. And it got 2 double downs, remember, in Toronto and Denver. There we go. So yeah, Shatter has a lot of momentum going into the championship to finally maybe get its first title. And then afterwards it's Nitro, the defending racing champion, just being edged out by 50 points to be joined Outlaws, the only truck with 2 points championships, but not this time around. Now, racing-wise, the defending racing champion, it was kind of mid this year, even though I think it did win a race or two, but its racing record wasn't as good as last year when it had that massive turnaround, remember. And points-wise, and honestly, it seemed to be more of a freestyle threat this year than racing, which, hey, it's won a freestyle title before, so I wouldn't be surprised. But by 50 points, though, Nitro was second in the points championship. Outlaw, not having a really good racing record, even though it is slightly better than Nitro. A lot of trucks, remember, had struggles in racing this year, but had a dominant freestyle season, too. Absolutely incredible. I think it was 3rd place in freestyle this year in terms of points. It was just a wild year, as it's 3rd place in the point stands. And then 4th is Thunderbolt, who, remember last year, did not have a good year. This year, it had an unbelievable year, winning so many races and freestyles too. Like a complete 180 from last year, as it got 4th in the point standings. And then 5th place is Impala, which did not have a good racing record, but it still did very good. It had an awesome freestyle year and all that. So, good year for Impala still. Shadowrun, the defending freestyle champion, was 6th place. It didn't do good in racing, but oh man, it went off in freestyle. It has the most freestyle points this year. Makes sense for the defending champion, as it had only 1 terrible freestyle. The rest of its freestyles were awesome. Should have won more freestyles if it just didn't flip early or didn't get like 1 point short or something like that. Shadowrun, which had probably the greatest freestyle title defense ever, and probably one of the greatest freestyle runs in a season in MTWS, other than Impala in 2014 and Mad Dog last year. Like, Shadowrun is up there in terms of the best seasons all time in freestyle. Speaking of Mad Dog's next at 7th place. It was the points champion last year. It couldn't defend its title this year, and it took a downgrade, but still did good, won a bunch of races. It won its first race cup earlier, remember, in like 9 years, and still won a whole bunch of freestyles and all that. So, still a good year for Mad Dog. Crazy Bull, however, had a massive turnaround. Remember last year, Crazy Bull barely made it in by a tiebreaker. If it wasn't for a tiebreaker, it could have missed the championship for the first time ever. Well, and of course, remember, started off the year terrible at 3 and 5 in racing. Then it had that stretch from Detroit onward where it was just unbelievable. It made the finals like 6 or 7 times, won racing like 3 times and stuff like that. Has the best racing record in the league. Just an unbelievable performance by Crazy Bull to easily secure its title in the championship this year, unlike last year. And then Power Forward, the former race champion, did not have a good end to the year and all that. I think had an okay start, but not really good down the stretch and all that. But still in the spot to make the championship. And how about Crusher? Having a losing record, but still did good enough consistently in the freestyle to make the championship, as trying to hopefully get its first title. And then the Freestyle King, Crazy, with one of the worst records in the league for a truck that's made a championship, 4 and 12 in racing. Gee, remember last year where it was almost like 500 for most of the year? Yeah, not this time, as Crazy had a terrible year for racing. Freestyle, though, it was still very good, even though it didn't get a lot of points compared to some other trucks because it just wasn't as consistent. But it still made the championship, trying to get its first freestyle title. Crush and Run, the former racing champion, did not do as good in racing like last year. I think Crush and Run had like one of the best racing records in the league. But not this time around. And still did. The fact that it had the exact same points as Crazy, which is surprising, but it still got enough to get into the championship. Blood Rage did not have a good year. It has a losing record, which I think is the first time, other than maybe its rookie year, that it had a losing record, and did not do good in the point standings, but it did just enough to get in. Fireball had a rough year this year. Remember last year, I think Fireball did have the best racing record in the league. This year, no, or barely 500. Did better in freestyle, but a pretty disappointing year for Fireball, but still made in. How about War Machine? It had a losing record in racing, but it was very good in freestyle, especially near the end of the year, and allowed War Machine to make the championship for the first time in a regular season. It made the championship in 2020, but all the trucks automatically were in it. This time, War Machine actually earned its spot, and that's the difference compared to 2020. How about Bling 2? Make it back to championship. Did a lot better in freestyle, and had a win record 2 in racing, so that's good for it. Prowler. How about, oh my god, Prowler's win in East Rutherford yesterday. Its first freestyle win, its first win since 2009, ending the longest drought in MTWS history. That was wild, and that dominant freestyle win helped it secure its spot in the championship. Flying Falcon had a rough year, losing record despite winning racing in Anaheim, its first racing win in like 8 years. Did a lot better in freestyle more consistently. Hoping to do good this year around. Patriot had a rough year in racing, did not do as well in freestyle. Had a lot of duds in freestyle, but still made the championship. Wild Ride, the former racing champion, trying to get its racing title back this year, did not have a good year. It did a little bit better near the end of the year, where it made the finals more consistently. And I think it won the finals somewhere earlier on in the year, but I can't remember what it was. And didn't do as good as freestyle. Wild Ride, I think... No, Wild Ride was inconsistent. It had like terrible moments and great moments in freestyle down the stretch. Predator had a terrible year in terms of racing record, but it still made it made the championship because it was so good in freestyle and all that. The Freestyle King hoping to do good in the championship. And then Bone Crusher, that win in the season opener in Las Vegas, its first racing win, definitely helped it out as it made a championship for the first time ever in a regular season, like War Machine. Had almost 500 record and did pretty good in freestyle consistently. And then you get Damage Control, who's making a championship for the first time ever. How about that too? Outside of the 2020 season. Had a losing record, but it was more consistent freestyle. And then finally, we wrap it up the championship with Stinger. Funny thing, Stinger started off the year pretty good, remember. It won race in Orlando once again and had a 500 record, over 500 record for most of the year, had a win record, but near the end of the stretch, like the last few weeks of the season, it just wasn't as good. It has a losing record. I think it did better in freestyle, but it was not, I feel like, as good of a year as it was last year for Stinger. But hey, it just barely made the championship, and that's all that matters. So yeah, that's the championship field. Shatter, Nitro, Outlaw, Thunderbolt, Impala, Shadowrun, Mad Dog, Crazy Bull, Power Forward, Crusher, Crazy, Crush and Run, Blood Rage, Fireball, War Machine, Bling, Prowler, Flying Falcon, Patriot, Wild Ride, Predator, Bone Crusher, Damage Control, and Stinger. Alright, so now we take a look at the Runners-Up Cup. As, oh boy, we have some elite trucks not make it. Starting off with Outrage, who missed out in the championship by 25 points. Just think, if it did better in freestyle, it might have made it and kept Stinger out. Like, that's how close the bar was. But it just had a terrible year. It was not good in racing. And near the end of the year, Outrage just kept laying dud after dud after dud in freestyle. And that came back to bite it. As this is the first time since 2014 that Outrage did not make the championship, as it's going to go into the Runners-Up Cup. Speaking of which, another truck hasn't been in the finals in a long time. Eruption, oh my god, Eruption just had a terrible year. First it had a late schedule thing, so most of its schedule was near the end of the year. And then afterwards, it just never recovered. It was just like Crazy Bull last year. It kept losing races, like one and dones and all that, like week in and week out. And even when it had a great freestyle in Orlando yesterday, it just wasn't enough. Everyone else just got enough points to overtake it and kept it from making a championship. If it did better, like even slightly better, or maybe won freestyle outright in Orlando, Oakland yesterday, it might have made the championship potentially. That's how the bar was. Even if it was struggling, it had a chance, but it just kept blowing it. So this is the first time since its rookie year in 2010 that Eruption is not in the championship. Eruption made the championship every year except its rookie year, and now. And it's going to be a heavy favorite to get the racing win unless it keeps continuing to struggle. And how about that? Total Chaos didn't make the championship. It had a strong start to the year. It had a win record. It was very, very good in freestyle. Remember, it won freestyle in Julian and later on in West Lebanon. But near the end of the year, Total Chaos took a big decline. It wasn't winning races, and it was not very good in freestyle. It kept laying duds, kind of like Outrage. Reckless Intent had about... I think Reckless Intent overall might have had a better record. I mean, better stats than last year, but just wasn't enough. Destroyer had a terrible year, as it only won a third of its races. It did good in freestyle, but its racing record was just so bad it couldn't salvage it. As this is the first time since, I believe, 2015 that Destroyer did not make the championship. As there's only 3 truck changes from last year's championship, with Damage Control, Bone Crusher, and War Machine replacing Outrage, Eruption, and Destroyer. High Flying also did not have a good year once again. Man, I've had so much hype going into 2022 that High Flying was going to be a truck that could contend for title and hasn't even made the championship yet on its own. Madness also almost made the championship. Had a win record, but just couldn't get it done in the end, unfortunately. This was probably one of Madness's best years, but just wasn't enough to make it back. Night Stalker had a rough year. It was pretty good in racing, freestyle. Racing, it wasn't as good. In freestyle, it was pretty good, but it wasn't enough. Polar Storm, another truck that surprisingly disappointed. A near 500 record. It did not good in freestyle, and that's probably what killed it. Topsy Turvy had a rough year. It was one of those trucks that had a very back-loaded schedule, where most of the events were later on in the year, and it just never was able to recover. Venom had a rough year, even though it did have a lot of freestyle points, it just wasn't enough. The Monster Razor almost went 500, because that's usually a truck that goes 500, but it wasn't enough because it didn't do as well in freestyle, especially when we saw, I think it was in Atlanta somewhat, and East Rutherford, where it just choked. Daisy Chain, terrible losing record in racing, kept it from making it. Locomotion, remember, it started off the year 5-2, but after that, it went 3-10 the rest of the way. Not a good racing record, good in freestyle, but it wasn't enough as Locomotion didn't make the championship. Man, what a fall from grace. Ye Plunder made the championship last year. I mean, it was almost 500 win record, but it didn't do good in freestyle, and that's what kept it from making it back to the championship. And, wait, actually, that means there's 4 trucks potentially that made the championship last year that didn't. I wonder who that could have been maybe then. But anyways, yeah, Ye Plunder did not have a good year. And finally, Crasher, who I think was last place last year, was once again last place. Actually, no, War Machine. Crasher has the worst racing record in the league. Not crazy. 3-10, terrible in freestyle. Just was not a good year for Crasher. So yeah, guys, this is the Runners-Up Cup field. Outrage, Eruption, Total Chaos, Reckless Intent, Destroyer, High Flying, Madness, Night Stalker, Polar Storm, Topsy Turvy, Venom, the Monster Razor, Daisy Chain, Locomotion, Ye Plunder, and Crasher. Both Total Chaos and Madness are going to be in the Runners-Up Cup again to potentially defend their titles in that regard. But Eruption, despite struggles, I think is going to be a heavy favorite in racing, and Outrage, along with Total Chaos, should be a heavy favorite in freestyle. But of course, the main thing is the championship field, as this field is stacked, and I cannot wait to see what happens, as pretty soon the track will be revealed sometime soon, and yeah, can't wait. So see you all on January 27th of 2024 for the 2023 MTWS Runners-Up Cup. We'll see who will win race and freestyle there, and don't forget too, qualifying for championship will be done in between race and freestyle, so we'll see the bracket get ready to go for that event, so tune in for that. And then February 3rd, we will be live in Glendale for the 2023 MTWS Championship to find out, will Nitro defend its racing title? Will Shadowrun defend its freestyle title? Will any of the other trucks get another title or get their first title? We have a lot to see. So see you all in January for the Runners-Up Cup, and then in February for the championship.